connections for you, and then it's will be up to you to organize a time and a place to meet up. And we hope that these connections will last many years into your career. And this isn't just about having a one-time conversation, but an open and collaborative relationship where both the mentee and mentor can benefit. Also, we have a career event that will complement this session in July 13th, which will hopefully give you an idea about many opportunities you have post PhD. And again, we are recording this session, so if anyone not feeling comfortable, they can turn off their video or email us later. And we will start with a short presentation from Michelle Xiang, who will tell us about how to be a mentee and mentor and what this amazing opportunity can bring you. Then we will have 2 5-minute talks from a mentee and mentor perspective, where they will briefly discuss their experiences. And then the rest of the time is allocated to questions from you for the panelists. So please save your question for this time. And after the presentation, you can use the raise hand function to use your mic or unmute yourself. But feel free all the time to put any question that you have in the chat box. And we will try to answer your question during the session or later in a separate email. Now I give you Michelle, who's the convener of the Centenary Institute's Inclusion and Gender Equality Program, and who's also a research assistant at the Liver Enzymes in Metabolism and Inflammation Program. So please welcome Michelle.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen, so just give me a moment. Okay. Can everyone see that okay? Okay, thanks. So hi everyone. Today what we're going to do is cover the basics of what mentoring is, why you might want to be a mentor or a mentee, and a couple of tips to promote mentoring success. So mentoring is often discussed as, being very beneficial to your life and your career, particularly in the corporate world. However, it's not really mentioned nearly enough in the medical and the life sciences. So while mentoring relationships between students and postdocs and PIs, they do organically develop in the lab, I wanted to introduce this concept of mentorship to people who have never heard of it before or considered it, and to also give a refresher to people who may be thinking about how to take their career to the next level. So without further ado, what is mentorship? And, what's the difference between mentorship and, say, coaching and sponsorship? Well, let's say this is currently you, and you want to get from here, your present day self, to a more successful you. However, you define success, of course. For one person, it might mean a lot of dollar signs, but for another person, for instance, it might mean a more balanced lifestyle. Now, in terms of helping you figure out how to get there, there are 3 kinds of people that can help you progress in your career. So there are mentors, coaches, and also sponsors, and they help in different but complementary ways. So let's start with mentors. So mentors come in many sizes, shapes, and forms, but generally a mentor is someone who is more experienced or knowledgeable in a specific area, industry, or topic, and they draw upon this wisdom to provide guidance to someone that's less experienced in that area. So although mentors are often older than mentees, this is not always the case. So the key distinction is just how experienced that person is in a particular area compared to their mentee. So for example, if you were interested in pursuing an R&D job after your PhD, you might seek out a person who's currently in the role that you're interested in or has had previous experience moving to this role to be your mentor. So a mentor's role is to help the mentee work through challenges by sharing their thoughts and past experiences, guiding the mentee into coming to their own decision rather than to make the decision for them. A mentor is generally the most helpful for longer-term career development, and this relationship is mutually beneficial with both mentors and mentees learning from each other in a purposeful way. Now, what's a coach? So a coach, on the other hand, focuses on helping you to change specific skills or behaviors in order to meet short-term career goals. For example, if the thought of public speaking actually scares you, but you wanted to do well for an upcoming presentation at an international conference, you might want to find a coach who can actually help you improve your public speaking skills before the conference. And lastly, what is a sponsor? Well, a sponsor is generally someone at a more senior level who takes personal risks to leverage their reputation in order to create opportunities for you, which you might otherwise not be able to access on your own. So this is a person who will advocate for you in front of others. For example, a sponsor may be a high-profile lab head who has recommended you for an editorial position at a prestigious journal. So as you can see, mentors, coaches, and sponsors are all beneficial and complementary to helping you reach the next level in your career. So next, I guess, what are the benefits of mentoring? So for mentees, you can gain practical experience for how to succeed by accessing the experience and expertise of your mentor. And you can also use this opportunity to test ideas and plans. Through mentorship, you also get exposed to a broader perspective and the opportunity to explore your potential. And finally, you can increase your professional knowledge and networks by connecting with not only your mentor, but in some cases, your mentor may also introduce you to other people in order to help you advance your career. For mentors, you get to learn how to see things from a different perspective, which could lead to insights into your own life and career. Advising a mentee can also help build your leadership, communication, and supervisory skills. And it can also promote self-reflection on your own career path and what are the sort of steps or what helped you succeed in your career thus far. And lastly, of course, it can also help you expand your professional networks and connections as well. So lastly, I wanted to share a couple of tips for mentoring success. And so the first tip is before you engage in mentorship, you should first understand your goals. So you should understand, why do you want to be mentored? And what are some goals in mind that you want to achieve? Because the more specific you are with those goals, the easier it will be to actually achieve them. Secondly, you should also consider how much time you can devote to being mentored. And it's good to be realistic in this department. And lastly, what kind of mentoring relationship are you seeking? Because mentorship relationships can be formal and informal. And once you've found a mentor, the next step is to set clear expectations and objectives. So, discuss how they prefer to communicate. For example, would they rather have coffee with you or do video calls online or, surf while eating pizza? How much time commitment do they have? Maybe they like to sit down once a month with you, or maybe they want to speak on the phone 5 minutes a week. Find out what works for your mentor so you can actually take this relationship further. And of course, define the goals that you actually want to work with your mentor. And lastly, it's important to be prepared to be honest and open, because ultimately mentoring relationships are mentee driven. So mentees need to be quite open to advice and ready to listen, ready to learn, and also accept constructive criticism and have the courage to actually change. Because if you're not ready to take on advice, then mentorship is probably not going to have a big impact on your life. Likewise, mentors need to be curious and ask questions without judging the mentee's responses. A successful mentoring relationship typically involves fostering consistent and open communication, which focuses on the needs of each other and the ability to provide honest feedback to the mentee. So I hope this talk has provided some good food for thought, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for that, Michelle. I really enjoy those opportunities and how you explain the mentee and mentor journey. So thank you again.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right, now we have a short talk from a mentee perspective from Associate Professor Elizabeth Dilke, who is the head of the Physiotherapy and Cancer Rehabilitation and Lymphatic Disorder Research Group at the university. Her research focuses on understanding and improving outcomes for those treated for cancer, particularly those who develop lymphedema. To achieve this, she focuses on working with clinicians in a research group, which supports the development of HDR and ECRs ready to become the next leaders. If you please, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Thanks so much for the invite and for setting the scene so well there, Michelle. I've been in a number of mentee programs over my career, and so we'll try to provide some perspective on different things. I think what's really important is some of the things that Michelle already pointed out as a mentee, is that you need to know what you're looking to get from it. And therefore you're the one driving the relationship. And my most successful mentee experiences have been when I've been really clear on that, the mentor, and having the good fortune and or the work put in to make the mentor be the person that matches the goals that I'm looking to achieve. I'd say some of my most impactful relationships that I've had from a mentee perspective have often been quite brief as well. They might have been 1 or 2 coffees, a couple of emails, and that was it. But it met the goals of that relationship that I was looking for. So often when we go into these types of mentoring programs, we're looking for that person that will, might be with us for the rest of our lives and will be there to check in with. And sometimes you'll find that person and sometimes you won't. And that doesn't mean that it's been an unsuccessful mentoring experience. It might have been the most successful. So sort of go in with a really clear mind of what you're looking for, and then work towards those goals. And I think beyond being open and honest, the most impactful times I've had with a mentor is when I've been even more than that. I've been courageous and being very, very clear and big in my questions or my requests, and people are usually really open to that as well. So don't think that you need to start small and just ask about day-to-day things. You can go in sort of saying, I'm looking to change the world. How can I do that? And that can open a really good discussion point as well. I think the other thing to be conscious of as a mentee is you won't always get put with the right mentor. I've had some really negative mentoring experiences, and the second time around, I asked in a formal program, I asked to change my mentor, and that was the best thing for me. And it's not necessarily a reflection on them or on me, but it wasn't the right time for either of us to be in that relationship. And so that's fine, and that's okay. So again, it's about being really clear on what you're looking for. And if that need is not being met, then it's probably not being met for the other side as well. And so don't be afraid to stop a relationship, even if it's been formally assigned in some sort of way in one of these programs. And then I think that the last thing is just have realistic expectations of your mentors, particularly if you're feeling under pressure and you've got some big questions or you're really worried about something or you've got a very, very clear plan of what you want to do. You can be disappointed if the other person can't meet you halfway, and that's where setting up the relationship at the beginning will be the most useful thing for you as a mentee. But yeah, so while we call these mentoring programs, it really is, as Michelle said, mentee driven. You know what you're looking to ask and looking for support in, and so make sure you're clear on that and set that expectation up right from the beginning. And you're much more likely to be a successful mentee if you can do that. I think that's it from me, Michelle, or sorry, Rachel.
Okay, thank you, Liz, for sharing your experience. And now we will hear about the mentor experience from Associate Professor Haryana Dillon, who has more than 25 years of experience in cancer clinical research with a focus in psycho-oncology and cancer survivorship. She's passionate about the rigor in research, collaboration, and doing what she can to help humans make it to the 22nd century. And so please welcome Harry.
Thank you so much, and really delighted to be here. And I think really Michelle and Liz have said the really important stuff that needs to be said about this kind of the mentoring process. So I guess from my experience and my perspective as having been a mentor is that I think it really highlights the point about the relationship really is about you as about the mentee, and so the every relationship that you have with a mentee and between a mentee and a mentor is completely different. So it's about where each of those people are in in time and space and need and goals at that particular time. So some of my the people that I've mentored, I probably would have been a terrible fit for them, at a previous time, because what they were seeking was not really the kinds of things that I could help them with at that particular time. I think that as a mentor, it's one of the most satisfying and enjoyable parts of what I get to do now. I really love working with people who are thinking about where they want to go and what they need to do in order to get there. And I guess I find the distinction between mentoring and sponsorship and coaching a little bit blurred a lot of the time, because I think if you are in a mentor position, then often what you are doing is acting at times as a sponsor. That may not be your primary role. And I think particularly for women, women are known to be over-mentored and under-sponsored. And so I think I've kind of tried to absorb that into my approach to working with people, to think about, well, what is it that I can do to leverage where I am to get them to the next level? And for me, it's really a lot of the time the connections and the conversations and how to help people get somewhere is really about finding the right connections for them at that particular time. And so I think I have two very mild superpowers. One is cutting words from papers and grants, and the other is remembering people and being able to connect them in different ways. And for me, I think as a mentor, part of the process is knowing when to step back from something. So I will often work with people to connect them in different ways, and then give them the option to say, look, I don't know whether you want to keep going with regular contact with me. I'm always going to be here in the background. So once you've kind of been one of the people that I've had a connection with, I'll always be available to you, if you reach out and you want that contact. But maybe this is a time where you think that you might be better off being mentored or being in a more formal or a closer mentoring relationship with someone else. And so I think that process of actually giving people the option of opting out can be really, really powerful and useful. And I don't know that I have a huge amount more that I could say that we wouldn't be perhaps better off covering in a discussion. So, but I think, as a mentor, absolutely, it's one of the greatest joys of the work that we get to do. And it's so I don't think mentees should also feel that they're a burden on people, but it is this relationship that is reciprocal. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much for that, Haryana and Elizabeth. Both very insightful words, particularly about being honest and open about where you are at and not taking things too personally, I suppose, in that relationship. We're all just trying to get to one place or another. So, okay, we'll open up the panel for questions. Also allow me